network rate message or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good evening. It's 9 p.m. I'm Ben Leo. Tonight,
one of my producers here called the Home Office to check in because we, like many other people, were seeing social media posts of people at this hotel, and the rumours were that it was going to be used as a migrant hotel. And they basically categorically denied it.
has the government been lying to you about migration and asylum seeker hotels? Well, the answer won't surprise you. And
How do we get it? Strike! What do we want? How do we get it? Strike!
well, as junior doctors head back into pay talks after yet another strike, is it fair that coppers are getting just a measly 4% rise in comparison? And
have people out there who are extreme pornographers, peddling hate, peddling violence. Nigel Farage is on their side.
God, what a joke that was. Are the political elite resorting to dirty tricks to take down Nigel Farage and halt reform's surge in popularity? Joining me on the panel this evening, former Labour Special Advisor Paul Richards, the former Scotland Yard detective Peter Blexley, and the journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee. And what do you reckon's going on here?
We ain't got no troubles, no reason to complain. 'Cause here in great old Britain, we just love it when it rains. Morning. We're cosy here at home, even though it's not our own. But wait a few more years and who can say? Everything is just fine. Everything is grand. Your life can get no better when you're living by the letter in this pleasant land.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for your company. The government is spying on you and lying to you. Last week, the Home Office strictly told GB News there would be no migrants housed at the Britannia Hotel in London's Canary Wharf.
One of my producers here called the Home Office to check in because we, like many other people, were seeing social media posts of people at this hotel, and the rumours were that it was going to be used as a migrant hotel. And they basically categorically denied it to her. And then now it turns out that they are going to use it as an overflow facility for a migrant processing centre, which makes you wonder, why can't they just be honest with you?
Yeah, all right then. Surely we can trust the government, right? After all, it's their first priority to make sure British people, you and me, are safe. Well, take a look at this. This is the scene from the Britannia last night, where hundreds of small boat migrants were bussed into the hotel under the cover of darkness. And let's take a good look at the clientele, shall we? Men, all fighting-age men, not a woman or child in sight. The time was around 1 a.m. Why did the Home Office move these men into the Britannia at 1 a.m? What kind of time is that? Some may think it was done deliberately, perhaps, to ensure it went without anybody noticing. And by the way, the government's doing this at the very same time they're censoring migrant hotel footage on social media under the Online Safety Act. And what's even worse is they're doing it at the same time of setting up a so-called elite Home Office department to monitor social media looking for critics of migrant hotels. I think just so they can grass you up to social media companies and ask them to ban your accounts. So, as I said, the government is literally spying on you at the same time as lying to you. But what does this kind of contempt towards the electorate create? Well, it creates anger, worry, concern, and distrust of authority. Distrust of the very people meant to have our best interests at heart. So while this was going on at the Britannia last night, today I went down to another migrant hotel at London's Barbican, where there have been dozens of arrests and charges in recent months for a range of alleged crimes linked to hotel migrants staying there. This woman I'm about to show you now is called Tony, and she told me why her community wanted the hotel shut down.
Here today?
Because I live in the local community and I'm concerned over my children's safety. I'm concerned about my old age pensioners who can't come into the local square where we've always communed. This is our cafe.
So this is the square here? Just tell us, describe for viewers what's here, what's around here.
Fish and chip shop. They also, that's our George, and he opened a restaurant that's gone completely down the hill because obviously it was a thriving hotel at one stage. Now, as we know, it's just besieged.
So that's a great point. So because there's no genuine guests there's no tourists staying here, the local businesses are losing out because people aren't eating, people aren't going to the restaurants.
In the parks anymore, but you can't. How can you play with your kids on a paddling pool when you've got 4 or 5 men that you don't know glaring at you? They're disrespectful, they've got a different ideology.
Tony, I've been with the Antifa stand-up to racism lot in the past couple of hours.
They're not local.
Well, no, they've been bussed in, and also they're fully masked, but they're calling you lot racist, they're calling you lot bigoted. What's your response?
We're a diverse community, so how can they call us racist? And I don't like the fact that these people are coming into our community, telling us what we've got to put up with, and it's our kids' children's safety that's paramount.
Yeah, well said. Well, I kept mingling, and another man I came across had a few choice words for our dear Prime Minister.
Why is it Keir Starmer continues to basically close his ears to the working people of this country who are telling them in no uncertain terms, we do not want these people in and around our children. We know the crime statistics. We know what's happening in our country here. What is wrong with them? Why are these politicians deaf and not hearing?
Later on, I popped over to the so-called anti-racism contingent and we spotted migrants smiling and laughing at the commotion below from their hotel window. Here they are on your screen now if you're watching on television. Some were waving. I saw others dancing along to the music being blasted out by the so-called anti-racism protesters below. Others I saw were throwing their hands in the air and having a jolly good time before I guess they were asked to move on to stop provoking the crowds below. Soon after, I was surprised to see far-left militant Antifa rock up in full face masks, their identities hidden from full view. Let's have a quick look. This is them. This is the footage I recorded on my phone. Antifa, if you're not aware of who they are, it means anti-fascist. But in truth, I'd argue they are the biggest fascists going. They're a global organisation. They're often spotted in the United States, who are routinely violent, very organised and totally brainwashed by an ideology that wants to destroy capitalism and, indeed, democracy in the West. They censor free speech and call anybody they disagree with a Nazi. Of course they do. The truth is, the most trouble today came from Antifa down in London, who grappled with police, threw missiles and bottles at officers as the coppers tried to control crowds. Interestingly, they were allowed to keep their face masks on as well, unlike other protests such as the Bell Hotel in Epping last weekend. I was there, where police enforced an order for people to remove all face coverings. In fact, I saw people get nicked because they refused to take their masks off. So despite Antifa's intimidation, this is the moment, and this is iconic, this is the moment a brave British woman stood defiantly in front of a masked Antifa mob and stood her ground in the face of being called a racist Nazi.
It's the personification of Britain at the moment. A lone British woman, you know, by herself, defiantly holding up a Union Jack flag against a sea of Antifa masked protesters. Why are you standing there so defiantly? Are you not intimidated by this lot?
No.
Why do you feel so strongly you have to stand here and hold the Union Jack?
My children, my grandchildren.
You fear for their future? What do you think of this lot turning up with their face masks?
Stop.
Okay.
No mask. No mask.
Well done, that woman. I tried to find her in the crowd afterwards to try and get her on the show tonight, but I lost her in the melee. But I'd argue she speaks for a lot of the country right now. But sticking with Antifa, who and what are they? What are they doing at protests organised by worried Londoners who are concerned about illegal migrants and migrant hotels? Well, my next guest spotted these posters dotted all around London in the days leading up to today. Let's take a look. It reads, "Kick the racists out of London. Assemble at 2 p.m. Call out by Central London anti-fascist." That is an Antifa poster. Those were spotted by the New York Times bestselling author Andy Ngo, a man who's had his own fair share of skirmishes with Antifa in recent years, particularly in the US. He's the author of Unmasked, Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy Democracy, which is, by the way, available at all good bookstores, of course, and online. And I'm pleased to say Andy joins me now. Andy, good evening. Thank you for your company. I wanted to speak with you about Antifa particularly because, as I just mentioned, you've had, as I describe it, your fair share of run-ins with them. Can you just explain for the British audience, who are Antifa, where are they from, what are their intentions, who funds them, if you know? What's your thoughts?
Antifa is a violent far-left movement, and they are decentralized in how they are generally organized. So you can think of their structure as actually very similar to how jihadist movements organize, in that you can have formalized groups that have names, and then you can have those who are radicalized to the individual level based on the propaganda that is put out into the ether, the internet, or the public. And you just showed some of the propaganda in the flyers. It is relentless. It's in person, it's online, it's through some of the institutions as well. And in terms of their ideology, they claim to be anti-fascist. But if you looked at some of the signs that were at the direct action that they held today outside that hotel, one of them was "Smash fascism, open the borders." No states, no borders. The ideology is anti-civilization. They are anti-British, anti-America, and anti-Western civilization. They want to see the destruction of nation states. And they know, as well as even those who are protesting on the opposite side, that mass migration on this type of scale in a welfare state is destabilizing and can push the state to a breaking point, which is what they want. They want to see the downfall of capitalism, of social structures. And so in the masking, which you recorded in some of those great videos, is intentional. They tell their militant comrades to come out and do that, one, to be intimidating, and two, when given the opportunity to commit crimes and to be able to get away with it. They weren't able to carry out a lot of violence today because of the overwhelming force of the police presence.
Yeah, they are intimidating, especially wearing military-style balaclavas. When they first rolled up, so just to give you some colour, you had the Stand Up to Racism protesters, who I argue were the sort of socialist lot with their pre-made placards. They were in one side of the protest. And then suddenly the Antifa lot came down from a completely separate part of the city, all together, nicely organised, but all masked. And there was a couple of, as I described, military-style balaclavas being branded. One guy in particular, I guess he recognised me from the show, from the channel. He stood and stared at me for around, I'd say, a minute and a half. Didn't say anything. I didn't want to engage particularly with his eye vision, but I knew he was staring at me and trying to intimidate me. Why do they mask up? And also, what is their potential for violence? Because I know that you've had physical interactions with Antifa in the US, right, Andy?
Yes, unfortunately, I've been beaten by them several times in the course of my reporting in Portland, Oregon, where they're very active in the United States. So the masking serves a number of functions, but one, intimidation, but two, primarily so that they can evade being identified by law enforcement or members of the public. So after I was beaten, for example, law enforcement said that they couldn't identify my assailants because conveniently they were all masked in those balaclava types of face coverings. I just want to emphasize that today I think we didn't see mass brawls because of the presence of the police. That is a big difference between my country and yours, in that police in London keep demonstrators separated. I would not be surprised if within the backpacks of some of those militants that they came ready with weapons, because that is also something they instruct their members to do.
Wow, that's pretty chilling to hear, Andy, quite frankly. Just finally, does it concern you, I know you're from the US, does it concern you to see Antifa now rocking up to these events in London, these protests, not just London, all across the country, because lots of these protests have started with very honest intentions from concerned mums and dads. They've had maybe a child assaulted in their area by a hotel migrant. Does it concern you that we're now getting to the point where Antifa are rocking up?
It concerns me because a lot of the members of the public can be easily misled by the propaganda. In the flyers they put out, they're called, the Antifa and their allies will call their opposition racist and fascist. And all you have to do in places like London and Manchester and other cities is to use that type of inflammatory rhetoric and lies to get people showed up, angry and ready for a fight.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. Andy, thank you so much. I really appreciate your company this evening. You are, of course, the senior editor of the Post-Millennial and author of that great book, Unmasked, Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy Democracy. Let's hope they don't succeed, eh? Andy, thank you very much. Have a good evening and the rest of your weekend. Well, let's get the thoughts of my panel now. The former Labour Special Advisor, Paul Richards, the former Scotland Yard detective, Peter Bleksley, who I'm sure will have plenty to say on this, and the journalist and broadcaster, Linda Jubilee. Welcome along, panel. Again, once again, another week, I'm saying I'm thankful to be in the safety of the studio with you guys. Peter, I'll start with you as the ex-copper. What's your take on what we saw today? And also, my concern is the sort of arrival of Antifa at these events.
More broadly, a sleeping giant has been stirred by all of this. And that sleeping giant is the moderate mainstream of Britain, who every 4 or 5 years ago, the most political thing they would do is put an X in a box on a ballot paper.
Yeah.
We have reached a tipping point. Now those people who pay their taxes, who are law-abiding, who raise great children, who contribute to this once great nation, they are awakened to the downfall, the decline, and quite frankly, the hellhole that we are heading towards in this country. And they will mobilise. When I say mobilise, they have considerable financial clout.
Yeah, who funds them?
No, I'm talking about the giant that's been awoken, right. The moderate mainstream of Britain here. They have financial clout. What's the point in leaving your home, if you're lucky enough to own one, to your children, only for them to live in a country of decline, decline, decline? The moderate mainstream of Britain are waking up to all of this. And when they mobilise, inherently peacefully, but in huge, huge numbers, this lamentable government will get the shock of its life, and we will inch towards Britain once again becoming the nation that it should be.
Well, I appreciate your optimism. I've got similar thoughts. I think maybe in the next couple of years you're going to get people who previously weren't engaged in the news or politics. I've said it before so many times, like a broken record, who will start to notice that something's not quite right, and they'll start getting engaged, as you say. People who before wouldn't even follow the news or any shows like this or look at the, migrant numbers or whatever. I think, as you said, there's a sleeping giant at play here. Linda, what's your take on all this?
I think as well, and I think I've mentioned this before, that I worked in at least half a dozen hotels, mostly with evacuees from Afghanistan, which launching an English language programme. But inevitably, I came into contact with asylum seekers, and what I saw was a growing problem. And as Peter has rightly pointed out, the public slowly at that point became aware that there were many of these hotels in their area. They were all over West London, particularly round by Heathrow Airport. And really, I didn't believe the extent of it until I actually worked in those hotels. But what distresses me is that, you know, you turn and you look at footage shot on the streets of London today, and it looks like a total mess. And Peter is completely right in saying that moderate people now are becoming terribly concerned, and I feel concerned sometimes. But you know what? There's another group of people that I think no one really mentions, and that's the group of people who are here legally as migrants, who contribute enormously to this country, some of whom have now held very senior posts in running this country, but actually are also scared themselves because they're worried about being tarred with the same brush.
They are part of the moderate mainstream that I speak of.
Exactly.
The immigrants that came here 50, 60 years ago that run the businesses,
Or
who have
even more
contributed,
recently.
who have raised great children that are friends of our children and grandchildren. There is a mobilisation of millions of people in Britain who are quite frankly saying
they've had enough.
Yeah, they're sick of it. Paul, first of all, your take, but then I want to ask you as well about the Britannia hotel situation. The Home Office said to Patrick Christie's show last week, we are not putting migrants in that hotel. They bussed them in overnight last night. So maybe address that first, and then we'll get your thoughts on generally today.
Well, in government communications, the basic rule is, you know, do not tell lies to journalists because you will always be found out, right? So either somebody misspoke because they didn't have the information, or they, you know, the line changed when they spoke, and then they did bust them in anyway. But either way, you just don't do that. You know, you have to tell the truth, otherwise you do get found out, which is what's just
to clarify, we haven't had confirmation they are migrants at the hotel, but look, we're not stupid.
Well, I mean, you've got to be careful when you're briefing journalists, and that's thing I used to do for a living. On these demos, I don't take quite the apocalyptic line that my fellow panellists have done. I think a lot of people like turning up for a punch-up, and it's a bit sort of mods v rockers, this. There are people on the right and on the left who like to turn up and have a bit of a ruck. It's August after all. And I think, and just the anatomy of the far left you were describing there, there have always been these idiots who describe themselves as anarchists who will turn up. They used to be called the Black Bloc, in black clothes and with the masks and all that. They're the dudes that smashed up Fortnum and Masons a few years ago, you remember? And when they were arrested, they turned out to be public schoolboys, you know, just idiots dressing up and cosplaying.
I don't think this is the same, though.
It is, it's the same idiots. And then the stand-up to racism people, well, that's the Socialist Workers' Party.
Paul, these Antifa lot aren't just sort of middle-class people going down for a bit of a time. They're not. They are vicious. We heard from Andy Ngo that. Andy Ngo is a worldwide reputable commentator on this. He was beaten up by Antifa, hospitalised in Oregon.
Not in the UK.
No, but this is Antifa. It's a global organisation. They call themselves anti-fascist people.
My vision is not apocalyptic. My vision, which happens to be the truth, is optimistic. The mainstream, the moderate mainstream of Britain has been woken up by this lamentable lying government, and it will mobilise both on the streets peacefully, democratically at the ballot box, with its vast wealth that collectively it owns, from the plumber to the train driver to the bus driver to the police officer when they're off duty and they speak secretly, to all of these millions of people. They are saying enough.
Yeah, Peter, lots of viewers agreeing with you. Somebody said, Peter Blexley, you're absolutely spot on. Somebody else said, hear, Peter, I will join a peaceful protest. Yeah, lots of viewers agreeing with you. Panel, thank you very much. We're short for time because we had Andy. I need to read some statements as well. We contacted the Home Office this evening. They stated that due to safety and security concerns, they can't confirm whether migrants are being housed in hotels, of course. They also said they were unable to comment on operational matters in reference to whether migrants were transported to the Britannia at Canary Wharf to the hotel at 1 a.m. A spokesperson for Tower Hamlets Council said, we are aware of the government's decision to use the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf to provide temporary accommodation for asylum seekers. It's important that the government ensures that there is full packages of support for those staying at the hotel. We're working with the Home Office and partners to make sure that all necessary safety and safeguarding arrangements are in place. And in response to the Whitehall spy reports, a government spokesperson said, "Free speech is a cornerstone of our democracy. The Online Safety Act protects it. Platforms have a duty to uphold freedom of expression, and the Act places no curbs whatsoever on what adults can say and see on the internet." Unless it's something that would be already illegal offline. The government has no role in deciding what actions platforms can take on legal content for adults. That is a matter for them, according to their own rules. There we go. Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. Here's your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for a year and get a bonus of £5,000 in your bank in the latest Great British giveaway. And guess what? If you haven't got a mortgage or rent to pay, you can still enter and win £15,000. Here's all the details you need to win.
This is your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for an entire year in the latest Great British giveaway. That's right, we'll give you a cash lump sum that will cover 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, up to an incredible £20,000. Plus, we'll add £5,000 on top of that for you to treat yourself. And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you, we'll give you £15,000 in cash instead. You have to hurry though, as lines will close on the 29th of August. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, good luck to you if you decide to enter. Up next, the government just signed off on a 4.2% pay rise for police officers across England and Wales. Meanwhile, junior doctors, or resident doctors as they're now known, have seen their pay jump by nearly 29%, of course, over the last 3 years, making them the best paid group in the public sector. Are coppers getting a bad deal? This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Now, the government has just signed off on a 4.2% pay rise for police officers across England and Wales, covering every rank up to Chief Superintendent. It comes with a £120 million top-up from the Home Office, but the Police Federation's not too impressed. They say this so-called boost barely keeps up with inflation and amounts to nothing more than a Big Mac per shift. Meanwhile, junior doctors, as we know, or resident doctors, have seen their pay jump by nearly 29% over the last 3 years, making them the best paid group in the public sector when it comes to recent pay rises. Yet, they're still not happy. Their latest 5-day walkout has only just ended and they're still demanding even more money and more talks with the government, and they will be chatting about it very, very soon, we hope. But it's not just the doctors. Nurses could also soon be walking out too. 91% of Royal College of Nursing members voted recently to reject the 3.6% pay offer on the table. So should NHS workers be more demanding when police feel so short-changed? Should coppers deserve an even bigger pay rise than the offer they've had? Well, I'm joined now by former Scotland Yard detective Peter Blexley and the GP doctor Basha Mukherjee. Basha, good evening. Peter, welcome back. We'll start with you, Basha. You guys are getting near 30% pay rises over the last couple of years. Coppers, who I appreciate very much, especially at protests like today, are getting a paltry amount, a Big Mac per shift. Is that fair?
I would absolutely say that coppers and police, for sure, they do a really important job in society. And this is not a race. This is not a competition between two very important members of society, essentially. And they have their own right to be striking. I mean, I know they can't strike, but essentially, if they feel that this is unfair, they by all means have the right to hold the government accountable for this. I don't think it's going to be fair for me to compare the two groups. They do very different jobs, both equally important, and equally, I still support the resident doctors' claim to want a pay restoration.
Peter, what's your take?
Dr Mukherjee, no less than 5 coroners have categorically come to the decision in their courts that at least 5 people died as a result of junior doctors, resident doctors, going on strike the last time. How do you sleep at night?
I must say that I think it's one of those figures that when I, as a doctor, compare that with the number of patients, excess deaths that have been happening on the days that doctors are not on strike, when you compare that, and we're talking about last Christmas, 500 deaths every weekend, excess. And this was when doctors were at work. So when you compare that with the numbers, of course, no doctor wants to be striking. And, you know, the idea of creating dangerous situations is never something we wanted to do in the first place. We didn't ever anticipate that after West Streeting promised us to get to pay restoration, he backed away from his own promise made to us, which is what put the strike to an end last November.
But Basha, would you give some of your pay rise to a copper?
Would I give some of my pay rise to a copper?
Yeah.
Well,
what if all the junior doctors, resident doctors who just received massive pay rises, what if they came to an agreement that, you know, it's not fair that we're getting all the government's money in big pay rises? Why don't we give a portion of it to our needy coppers who are doing a very important job, especially in this day and age?
It's not getting all of the government's money.
Well, where's the money coming from?
Would cost 0.05% of the whole of the NHS budget. And let me tell you that they're already spending more on staffing these shifts of the strikes, and they've already been spending more by selling the NHS to private companies. The government has been getting, the MPs have been getting 25 pay rises in the last few years.
Yeah, they're rotten as well.
Going, not to resident doctors'
Yeah, the MP's pay rise is rotten as well. I mean, that's decided by an independent body, but yeah, I mean, that's rotten as well. Hard-working people grafting to keep their roofs over their heads, to send their kids to school, to feed their children. You know, people at home watching this don't get 30% pay rises over 2 years. Likewise, MPs.
30% pay rise, what are you talking about? What does that actually look like in real terms? That actually looks like £4 extra per hour.
Well,
and
more than anyone else gets.
Resident doctors end up working almost an entire extra day per month unpaid at the moment. The ones that are working in hospital and other sectors because of extra hours unpaid each day, because of shifts overrunning, because of having excess work, not having enough staffing. So there's enough unpaid hours that they're doing as it is. They're only asking for £4 extra per hour.
Well, to be honest with you, Basha, that's probably half of what most people earn on minimum wage an hour. What's the minimum wage these days? So, I mean, £4 an hour is quite a decent chunk. Peter, last word to you.
Dr Mukherjee, if your excessive pay demands were met by this government, in return, would you surrender the right to strike?
Well, I would just like to go ahead and say that I personally am not going to be, in the position to be striking anyway, because I'm qualifying as a GP. So the resident doctor strike is not something that's going to apply to me personally. In terms of would I give up my right to strike? Absolutely not, because actually it's one of the few ways that there can be an actual conversation between the resident doctors and the government. Although striking is the very last resort that is taken by doctors, it is still at least one last before resident doctors leave the country, leave the NHS, which is already happening in thousands.
Yeah, all right. Well, as you know, police officers can't strike because the country would go to pot. So I'm not too sure why doctors think they can strike. I mean, they can legally, but morally, I'm not too sure. But Basha, thank you very much for your contributions. Appreciate it as always. That's GP Dr Basha Mukherjee and the former Scotland Yard police detective and superstar panellist Peter Bleksley. Thank you both. Right, coming up, senior Labour Cabinet Minister Peter Kyle accused the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage of being on the side of paedophiles just a couple of days ago, such as Jimmy Savile. While Nigel Farage is now forced, in a separate incident, to publicly say he's not ill. Just what the hell is going on with the establishment? Is this dirty tricks at play? Have they run out of ideas in the face of policy? This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Whilst the UK gears up for Storm Floris, it turns increasingly hot in Portugal, although there'll be some heavy rain in Croatia and Italy, particularly the central part of Italy. Thunderstorms expected here, thunderstorms moving through parts of Croatia and Bosnia. But for much of Iberia, it's sunny spells and increased heat. Higher temperatures than average for much of Portugal. And that's expected to continue into the start of next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hi there and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We've got more changeable weather on the way for Sunday, some rain for many of us, but also some sunshine following from the north later. But then for Monday, it's all attention out towards the west. Here comes Storm Floris moving across the Atlantic on Sunday afternoon, deepening as it becomes a very deep area of low pressure for the time of year and bringing some very strong winds to the north of the UK on Monday. But back to Saturday evening, we have got this area of cloud and rain pushing in across Northern Ireland and Scotland, slowly working its way southeastwards across the UK through the course of tonight. Some fairly low cloud developing, so some mist and hill fog as well, and quite humid conditions in the west. Clearer and slightly cooler down across the southeast. It does mean, though, that if you are in the south and the east of the UK, we should get off to a fairly bright, if not sunny, start to the day on Sunday. So do make the most of that sunshine. It's not going to last too long. Further north and west, we run into that cloud and some outbreaks of rain. Some areas of low clouds, so misty conditions around the coast and certainly some hill fog around as well. Some heavier outbreaks of rain in places too, and quite a wet start to the day across more eastern parts of Scotland in particular. Out towards the northwest, though, of Scotland and Northern Ireland, already turning brighter here, and those brighter, sunnier conditions will work their way slowly southeastwards as we go through the course of the day. Even in the south, though, we probably won't see a huge amount of rain getting towards the south of England until very late on, and even then, just the odd shower. Perhaps the odd heavier shower and even thunderstorm across the northeast of Scotland. But here there will be some sunshine, and it should feel pleasantly warm in that sunshine with temperatures into the low 20s for many of us. A very wet and windy picture though for Monday, especially across the northwest. So a weather warning already in place across Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England and the far north of Wales. Some damaging gusts of wind, so do stay tuned to the forecast. We could see some disruption. Even in the south, it will be fairly windy for the time of year. A changeable week of weather on the way, but generally settling down somewhat on Tuesday and Wednesday, and temperatures around average for the time of year.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News. Now, a couple of days ago, do you remember Peter Kyle, the Labour government minister, suggested Nigel Farage was on the side of paedophiles such as Jimmy Savile because he had very genuine concerns about the Online Safety Act. Anyway, today, reports say Nigel Farage publicly denies rumours that have spread in Westminster in recent weeks that he's ill, that he's poorly and in ill health. He said, "I think the fact they're spreading these rumours, which they are, is because it's the last card they've got." Just what the hell is going on with this kind of mudslinging? Well, joining me now is Greater Manchester Branch Chairman for Reform UK, Dan Barker. Dan, good evening. First of all, Farage was on the side of paedophiles. Now there's rumours going around Westminster that he's ill and I guess planting the seed that he won't be in the running to lead Reform into the next election in a few years. What's your take on what's going on?
Well, I think it's wishful thinking on the part of our opponents. I mean, he's only 61. That's not old these days. I mean, he's in pretty good condition, I think. And, you know, he says, you know, if you look at his kind of work schedule, he's up at the crack of dawn, he's right through to the late hours. I mean, the guy has got a work ethic. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, for somebody who likes boozing and definitely, you know, huffs on a fair few fags, he's not in bad nick, you know. So what's going on? What's going on politically? Why do you think Labour and the government and ministers? I mean, Peter Kyle, as I understand, I'll clarify with Paul Richards in a second. He was given the go-ahead by Downing Street to come out this week and say Nigel Farage was on the side of pedos because he has concerns about the Online Safety Act. What's going on politically here, do you think?
Well, I think it just shows you how worried they are by the sort of depths they're willing to sink to. I mean, I think by trying to link Nigel Farage with Jimmy Savile is a way of trying that up in voters' minds that come the general election, if they can make any of this stuff stick, that it might give people pause for doubt, you know, maybe think twice about voting for Reform, voting for a government led by Nigel Farage. But I think they've underestimated the general, you know, disenchantment, the malaise that everyone's feeling about the country, the way everything is. It's not just Labour, although they are the worst government I think we've ever had in living memory, and I'm 50 this year. But you know, we've had the sort of combined effect of the Tories, New Labour, and now this version of Labour, which is just destroying everything, it seems, that's good about the UK.
Yeah. Farage told the Times newspaper in response to these swirling rumours, he said, "I wouldn't say the BMA would hold me up as a pin-up boy, but I'm feeling good. A bit of exercise, I walk the dogs. Yesterday I had lunch with a very interesting chap. We got through lunch with just one bottle. I'm not too bad at all, really. I look at people I was at school with and think, oh, I'm actually doing quite well." Dan, thanks for that. I'm going to get the thoughts of my panel now. The former Labour Special Advisor Paul Richards, former Scotland Yard detective Peter Blexley, and the journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee. Welcome back, panel. Paul, start with you. What are your lot playing at? They're playing dirty tricks.
I'm in and around Westminster a lot. It's recess this week, but certainly last week I was chatting to lots of Labour MPs. The only person I've heard talking about Nigel Farage's health is Nigel Farage. I've no idea where this has come from. There's no coordinated rumour. And the first I heard about it was when I read it in the Times this morning.
Well, Stephen Swinford, let me find his tweet. Peter, what's your take in the meantime? I'll find this tweet and then, yeah.
This government is the worst at communicating of any government I can remember. It's absolutely diabolical.
Is it worse than Liz Truss?
I think it's absolutely abysmal. Truss wasn't in long enough to really make a judgment call. This Peter Kyle statement, apparently signed off with the comparison to Jimmy Savile, shows how the government has a fundamental lack an understanding of how predatory paedophiles commit their crimes. Savile was enabled by the BBC, and I'll accept perhaps unwittingly by some, and Stoke Mandeville Hospital and other places to commit his dreadful crimes because he gained access. Paedophiles want access to children. It's why so many of them are sometimes step-parents. They get in the teaching industry, volunteer sector, where they can be around children. That was what Savile's offending was all about. And Carl showed a complete lack of understanding of it because the internet wasn't around when Savile was offending. So it was a stupid comparison.
What about now, though?
From a lamentable government.
I mean,
but if Savile was still alive now,
No,
and again...
politically now, with these new rumours about Farage's health, what's going on politically with Labour? Are they deliberately sowing these stupid...
They're the worst communicating government I've ever known, and so this really doesn't surprise me.
I mean, the fact of the matter is...
But none of us had heard it.
Nigel Farage does not even look ill.
But had you heard the
Hang
rumours?
on
You're
a
an
minute.
insider too.
I have heard that.
Oh, hang on, Paul. Linda, sorry, I'm going to be very rude and interrupt you. Paul, let me just read you this tweet. This is from the political editor of The Times, Stephen Swinford. He's no idiot. He said, Nigel Farage goes public to deny rumours that have spread in Westminster in recent weeks that he's ill. Are you saying Stephen Swinford, the political editor of The Times, is making stuff up, saying there's rumours going around that aren't there?
Well, there's no evidence for these rumours. I've
just told you, Stephen Swinford, who is in Westminster daily, speaking with MPs, he said there are rumours going round that he's ill. Enough rumours that Farage has come out and spoken to The Times about his health. Why would Farage do that?
But he's volunteered the information. I don't think he was asked the question. And if you Google it or look on Twitter, there's nothing. There's nothing there. The only
in Westminster is the key word. It's not public. It's in Westminster.
There's two separate,
Sorry, Linda, go on. I interrupted
separate things here. There is the comments, and is there any evidence that underpins the comments? Now, the fact of the matter is, I have heard those comments, and what I am saying is there's no evidence to underpin them. As far as I can see, and I was on Nigel Farage's show last week, he looked pretty fit to me.
Yeah. Okay.
And he's not overweight.
No.
Maybe he smokes a few fags and he likes a glass of red wine at lunch. But at the end of the day, these rumours are instigated. It may not be that they're heavily instigated. They are instigated because this is a political party which is heavily based on one person's character, one person's feel. That's why it's happening.
OK. Margaret, on your say, has summed it up. She said they're going to throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at Nigel and Reform. It shows how desperate they are, Paul. Right, coming up, is working class rage surging in Britain? There's a question to ponder during the break. Back in just a tick.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello, everyone. Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here
we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Did you have a chance to think, is working class rage surging in Britain? Because last week, Deputy PM Angela Rayner said deprivation, time spent online and immigration is weakening social cohesion across the country. I'm glad she's finally realised. Working class people are facing rising living costs while businesses continue to profit during tough times. Young people can't afford anywhere to live in the areas where their families have lived for generations, while others receive help to do so. This all comes as the government's launching a new civil service internship scheme, but it'll be open only to working class students. But as protests break out at hotels housing migrants all across the country, has the government lost the working class vote? Well, joining me now to answer that is academic and anarchist Dr. Lisa McKenzie, who is, of course, working class. Lisa, what's your take on this situation? Is there working class rage in Britain?
Oh, God, absolutely. I mean, the rage is palpable. It's all over the country. I mean, where I am, which is Nottinghamshire, the East Midlands, I can't go for more than 10 minutes down a street without somebody stopping me and going, Lisa, have you heard about this? What about this? What about this? People are absolutely raging, and they are raging mostly at Labour, actually. Labour are getting a lot of stick for this.
At what though? What are they raging about? What has got the working class so riled? I mean, I think I know the answer, but can we let's just
It's the unfairness. It's the lack of fairness, or the lack of the way that they perceive fairness. These are working class people who work. They go to work. Their families all go to work. They expect, you do the right things in society, and then the society does the right thing by you. But what has happened is they can't afford to pay their bills, their rent. Housing is over expensive. Yes, immigration is a massive issue. It's probably the #1 issue now amongst working class people.
Careful, Lisa. You'll get a knock at the door from the Home Office if you continue like that.
Do you know what? I've had it before. I've already had that.
Have you really? Oh God, that was it was a joke, but yeah.
Yeah. But for various other things. But I saw you down near the Barbican today at the hotel with Antifa, and I've got to say, I know I used to be part of those groups. I didn't see anybody there that I recognised, actually. So
well, they had masks on, so you couldn't have recognised them anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah. But the rage, even against those people as well. Working class people are absolutely furious throughout the country. Yeah. I don't think there is any saving Starmer and Labour now, not at all.
Well, that brings me on to my next question. Angela Rayner, of course, is working class. Infamously, she's a working class hero for some. What's your take on her? Do you feel betrayed by Angela Rayner?
Angela Rayner is a class traitor. She always has been. She came from the trade unions. The minute she started to get, decent jobs and money, she completely forgot a working class community. We all know that. All of us who are working class, we know that Angela Rayner is a working class traitor. She sits next to Starmer. She's done nothing for us at all.
All right, I'm going to get the thoughts of Paul on that. I will say as well, before I let you go, Lisa, I was at the Barbican today. I was walking back to the taxi. Somebody, working class lad, walked past me and he said, I just passed him in the street. He said, Ben, all right, mate, thank you for GB News for finally speaking up for people like us. Thank you. Nobody else is doing it. Anyway, Lisa, thank you very much. Appreciate your company. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Paul
Bye.
Richards, she reckons, Lisa, she, the cat's mother, reckons Angela Rayner is a class traitor.
Well, Lisa Mackenzie, who we've met and we like and is a friend of the show, is an anarchist, and she believes that the main obstacle to her anarchism is the Labour Party and the trade unions. The leadership of the trade unions. So, of course, she's going to attack the Labour deputy leader and use that kind of very inflammatory Marxist language. But that's her politics.
But Lisa is working class, so she is a bona fide member of the working class,
is.
and she assesses that Angela Rayner, who's meant to be working class, well, she is working class, is a class traitor.
Well, she's wrong, isn't she? Because I think anyone in the government that is championing, you know, an increase in the national minimum wage, for example, like Angela Rayner is, then I think that's somebody on the side of working people.
Linda?
I think anyone who can walk across the lobby in a pair of trousers costing £350, which roughly equalled the winter fuel bill at the time, is not properly working class.
Well, David Beckham wears expensive clothes.
Yeah, but he doesn't say he's working class, and he's not a member.
He is working class, of course he is.
Well, yeah, but he doesn't.
Working class boy from Leighton.
That is a very silly comparison.
No.
It is.
Working class people can have nice things.
And by the way, Paul, Angela Rayner, seven grand on 2 beds in Admiralty House.
There we go.
Of taxpayer money, 2 beds.
Hang on, they're not hers, though, are they?
It's a little...
She's living there. It's a grace and favour home.
You need to pay attention to the fact that you are an elected member of a party and you need to have some judgment.
Peter, last word to you. This new internship scheme for working class people, I mean, is that going to do the job?
The sleeping giant that I spoke about earlier in the show, that is being stirred from that slumber, contains plumbers, millionaires, scaffolders, bin men, women who work in administration roles, people who work in supermarkets, everyone, that moderate mainstream that is waking up and is going to have a very, very loud voice very soon, contains all of those kind of...
You're working class, aren't you?
In my head, because I think working class is a state of mind. I still get up sometimes at 3:15 to jump in a car at 4:30 to earn not very much money. I'm working class, state of mind, yes.
Good man. We appreciate you for it. Thank you very much. And yes, Paul, Angela Rayner, the Deputy PM, living in the Grace and Favour home, Admiralty House, the former home, was it Sir Winston Churchill or other bigwigs? 7 grand of taxpayer money on 2 beds.
It's not hers, though, is it? When she stops
She's living there.
No, but if she treated it like her own, she wouldn't spend such exorbitant amounts of money.
When she leaves the job, though, she doesn't have it anymore. Okay. So it's not hers.
We'll continue Bedgate after the break. Stick with us on Ben Leo tonight. The first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages have just dropped. There's some big stories to get stuck into. Back in just a tick.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We've got more changeable weather on the way for Sunday, some rain for many of us, but also some sunshine falling from the north later. But then for Monday, it's all attention out towards the west. Here comes Storm Floris moving across the Atlantic on Sunday afternoon, deepening as it becomes a very deep area of low pressure for the time of year and bringing some very strong winds to the north of the UK on Monday. But back to Saturday evening, we have got this area of cloud and rain pushing in across Northern Ireland and Scotland, slowly working its way southeastwards across the UK through the course of tonight. Some fairly low cloud developing, so some mist and hill fog as well, and quite humid conditions in the west. Clearer and slightly cooler down across the southeast. It does mean, though, that if you are in the south and the east of the UK, we should get off to a fairly bright, if not sunny, start to the day on Sunday. So do make the most of that sunshine. It's not going to last too long. Further north and west, we run into that cloud and some outbreaks of rain. Some areas of low clouds, so misty conditions around the coast and certainly some hill fog around as well. Some heavier outbreaks of rain in places too, and quite a wet start to the day across more eastern parts of Scotland in particular. Out towards the northwest, though, of Scotland and Northern Ireland, already turning brighter here, and those brighter, sunnier conditions will work their way slowly southeastwards as we go through the course of the day. Even in the south, though, we probably won't see a huge amount of rain getting towards the south of England until very late on, and even then, just the odd shower. Perhaps the odd heavier shower and even thunderstorm across the northeast of Scotland, but here there will be some sunshine, and it should feel pleasantly warm in that sunshine, with temperatures into the low 20s for many of us. A very wet and windy picture, though, for Monday, especially across the northwest, so a weather warning already in place across Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England and the far north of Wales. Some damaging gusts of wind, so do stay tuned to the forecast. We could see some disruption Even in the south, it will be fairly windy for the time of year. A changeable week of weather on the way, but generally settling down somewhat on Tuesday and Wednesday, and temperatures around average for the time of year.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Let us take on some of your financial stresses and pay your mortgage or rent for the next 12 months. We want to give you a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, up to an unbelievable £20,000. We'll also boost that by a further £5,000, so you really could have some fun in the coming year. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Hello, good evening. It's 10 p.m. I'm Ben Leo, and breaking tonight, punches thrown in a right royal bust-up. In tomorrow's Daily Telegraph, Prince Andrew allegedly came to blows with his nephew, Prince Harry, after making a comment behind the Duke of Sussex's back. A bombshell new book claims punches were thrown. Who do you reckon will win in a fight, by the way, between Harry and Andrew? Apparently getting the better of Andrew by all accounts. I'd love to have seen that. Elsewhere, crime does pay, only it's you, at home, forking out for it. A surge in shoplifting in Britain is costing you over £100 a year as stores hike their prices to recoup their losses. Also,
the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
oh, goodness me, Bob Dylan, he ain't. In tomorrow's Sun, new bombshell research warns how much Ed Miliband's mission for net zero will cost British households each and every year. I'll reveal all very shortly. And the BBC, they are launching a probe into Strictly Come Dancing cocaine use. Yes, The Sun have an astonishing front page tomorrow. It's on your screen there. The newspaper says 2 stars have made allegations that drug use is well known on the show, and a top law firm has now been hired to investigate the claims. The BBC He's encouraged people to come forward if they know anything about it. Joining me on the panel this evening is the former Labour Special Advisor, Paul Richards, the former Scotland Yard detective, Peter Bleksley, and the journalist and broadcaster, Linda Jubilee. And, of course, we'll have our weekend fails.
I'm not a fan of your mayor. Why not? I think he's done a terrible job. The mayor of London, but a nasty person. I think he's a friend of mine. No, I think he's done a terrible job. But I would certainly visit London. Yeah.
Hello, welcome to Ben Leo Tonight. It's 10 o'clock and the first of tomorrow's Sunday newspapers have just dropped. Let's start with The Sun on Sunday. Big story. TV dance show bombshell, Strictly Cocaine probe. The BBC has hired a law firm to probe damning allegations of cocaine abuse on Strictly Come Dancing by 2 stars. We will get stuck into that very shortly on this very sober edition of Ben Leo Tonight. The Sunday Express fears that Hamas may unleash terror in the UK. Activists are ready to radicalise Brits by exploiting growing sympathy for plight of Gaza. The Mail on Sunday. Carry on, doctor. 2/3 defy strike call in a huge blow to militant unions' bid to wreak havoc across hospitals in the UK. And a world exclusive, this big one up the top here if you're watching on television. Epstein's useful idiots. How Prince Andrew was preyed on by rattlesnake billionaire Epstein, who sold his secrets. That's according to the most devastating royal biography ever. It just doesn't end for Andrew, does it? The Observer. Britain's real immigration crisis and the solution. Rachel Sylvester on Labour's push for digital ID for all. Here we go. Tony Blair's fantasy, decades on. What have we got? We've got a problem with migration. What's the solution? Oh, let's hook everybody up to digital ID. An absolute Orwellian nightmare. Do not buy it. Do not accept it. We'll get stuck into that shortly. The Sunday Telegraph, or is it The Independent? The Independent. Troubleshooters sent into charity linked to Carrie Johnson. The Global Wildlife Foundation that recruited the former PM's wife, Carrie Johnson, is facing allegations that multi-millionaire chairperson improperly used funds. Next is the Sunday Telegraph. Kemi Badenoch. Labour has not learned from Truss's mistakes. The Conservative leader accuses the government of taking country closer to a debt spiral. And just down the bottom there, Home Office tried to gag Genrich over small boats terror claims. So the Home Office tried to silence Robert Genrich, the Conservative, after he said terror suspects had arrived in Britain on small boats. This is very, very interesting, bearing in mind our conversations with the Home Office tonight. In an article for The Telegraph last year, Mr Genrich, the former immigration minister, claimed individuals linked to Islamic State had waltzed right into Britain. It can now be revealed a fortnight later the Home Office most senior civil servant reprimanded him over the disclosure. We will talk about that very shortly as well. And the Sunday Mirror. Last but not least, Maxwell exclusive. Ghislaine Maxwell quizzed on 3 Brits linked to Epstein. US lawyers focus on other pals apart from Prince Andrew. Welcome back, panel. Linda Jubilee, Paul Richards, Peter Bleksley. So many stories to get stuck into here. What should we do? What should we get stuck into?
Genrich, please.
This is a great one from Joe. Let me give the viewers some context about why I just said we've had some conversations with the Home Office tonight. This is Sunday Telegraph, let's look at. So at the top of tonight, leading into Ben Leo Tonight, we went to the Home Office and said, can we have comment, please, on the facts that last week, I think it was, on Patrick Christie's show, you told us, the Home Office, you told GB News absolutely no migrants would be bussed into the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf. We ran that on Patrick's show. I've shown you the clip. Patrick said that the Home Office had told our producers. Tonight, we went to the Home Office for comment ahead of my little talk at the top of the show, me accusing the Home Office of being liars for that very matter. The Home Office came back to us and said, sorry, we don't know who told Patrick that, but we're not quite sure that it's true. Anyway, we can't comment. Now we have a story on the Sunday Telegraph saying that the Home Office tried to gag Genrich over his claims that terror suspects were coming into the UK via small boats. So I just have the feeling, I don't want to stir things up too much, but I just have the feeling there's a bit of a communications issue going on at the Home Office at the moment.
Leave it to me, then. I'll stir things up as much as I possibly can. This is a really important story, because last year, Robert Genrich, in an article to the Telegraph, bearing in mind he was a former immigration officer, he said, in that article, Mr Genrich said that terrorists had waltzed right into the UK on small boats. He was a man who was in the know. He was a former immigration minister. So the country's most senior civil servant writes to Genrich to give him a telling off, but he didn't say the information was incorrect. He just said he shouldn't have put it into the public domain. Well, of course, Mr. Genrich should have put it into the public domain.
What a disgrace.
And I applaud him for that. And that's exactly the point. Terrorists have come into this country on those small boats. I don't for a moment suggest all of them, but even if it's one, it's one too many.
Yeah, I know for a fact one small boat arrival, this is a fact, I know for a fact one small boat arrival, and I'm sure there's many, but at least one, as a fact, has been nicked for terror activity. I know. I won't tell you how I know, but it's a fact. Paul, why is this government so intent on, I'll say it again, lying, covering up, authoritarianism, Orwellian behaviour? They seem to have some obsession with trying to gaslight the public into thinking there's nothing going on here and you shouldn't be concerned about it. At the same time as just totally misleading everybody. I'm sick of it. I'm sorry, I'm absolutely sick of it.
Well, I can tell, but the basis of the story in the Sunday Telegraph, I think, is that the civil servant spoke to the former minister saying this information should not be put out. Now,
why not?
I assume it was because he learned about the information from when he was a minister and he was governed by the confidentiality of his role as a minister of the Crown.
The Official Secrets Act.
And the Official Secrets Act and the responsibilities of that office. He then broke that confidentiality in opposition to cause trouble.
Okay.
And he was, in breach of ministerial codes.
Can I ask you then, why wouldn't... OK, Genrich...
That's my understanding of this story. I'm getting the same as everybody else, just reading it on there. I imagine that's why it's a civil service matter and not for the government.
I accept that point. So why wouldn't the government, off its own back, with its interests of the British people at heart, they are meant to be looking after us, come out and say, by the way, guys, some of these people we've been letting into the country via a small boat are terror suspects?
Well, because the security services do not make regular press releases about what they're doing to stop us from terror. That's why. They don't announce every plot they've foiled and they don't tell us who's arriving and where the means whereby they've arrived, because they are a secret service.
The government do not want us to know that terrorists have been coming into this country on those boats. Well done, Mr. Genrich. Well done. He's done a public service there.
Disagree, and I think actually it puts in question whether he should ever be a minister again, because he can't be trusted with the secrets that he's...
The public have a right to know if terrorists are coming into this country on small boats. The public have a right to know.
Yeah, I think actually, in amongst the tens of thousands of people involved, I know for a fact that, I've worked with counter-terrorism people who tell me that it's almost certainly true that there are more than one security issue with people who come in on small boats. But the point is, really, MI5 and MI6 don't talk about stuff that they save us from. We never hear how many times they've actually prevented terror attacks. We only know about it when a mistake happens.
Yeah, it's true.
And that is why they do not broadcast things into the public arena. I'm not saying, we all understand that, but I'm saying that's the way the security services operate.
And Peter, you know colleagues in counter-terrorism. They're not press releasing everything that's going on and telling the newspapers what's going on, because that's not how you tackle terror, is it?
Every day when there is not a mass casualty terror attack in this country is a very good day, and a day when we need to be grateful to our counter-terrorism police and the security services. While we sleep in our beds, they do heroic things, and I adore them. However, let's not conflate their brilliant work, and they don't get it right all the time, sadly, of course they can't. Let's not conflate that with the fact that the public have a right to know if terrorists are washing up on our shores.
Why wouldn't you conflate those two things?
The public has a right to know. If there are terrorists coming into this country, which we now know there has been, the public have a right to know.
Two issues.
The public have a right to know.
Yeah, but you can still co-join those two issues.
Paul, I would like, before we move on, we don't need the government to say, we've arrested somebody from Iran who's linked with this, they were going to do this to this building or whatever. Just be honest with the public and say, I don't know, we are aware there are people here who shouldn't be here because there's a serious concern and we are on it. Just give some reassurance and communicate to the public. We're not asking for specific details. And the fact they tried to gag Genrich as well, I get the official secrets thing, but he has argued he was acting in the country's interest.
Well, he's wrong, I think, if that's what's happened. And, you know, we're going to move on to the Hamas story. We know there's a threat to this country. We know that there are terrorists active here.
Mr. Genrich,
but we don't
Mr. Genrich, in essence, Mr. Genrich, in essence, acted as a whistleblower. This country is a lot better because courageous people have blown the whistle on any number of scandals that governments, police services, other people in public life would like to keep hushed up.
OK, should we look at the Sunday Express front page? Paul's just mentioned it. Great segue. Fears that Hamas may unleash terror attack in the UK. Activists are ready to radicalise Britons by exploiting growing sympathy for the plight of Gaza. Robin Simcox, who is the Commissioner for Countering Extremism, until last week fears the war in Gaza could inspire more extremists to commit atrocities, and the terror group's leaders could radicalise Westerners sympathetic to the Palestinian cause and exploit differences in how Hamas is perceived compared to other organisations, Paul.
Yeah, and crucially, this information has come through a select committee process, the Home Office Select Committee, quizzing somebody in full public glare, and the story arrives in that way. And I think it's absolutely right. We know that Hamas is a terrorist organisation, and we know that they don't like us. So I can imagine, absolutely, that there is now a current threat to our well-being and safety posed by these people. And by the way, the idiots who support them.
God forbid, Linda, that, as Peter just mentioned, attacks are being foiled day in, day out in this country by the security services and counter-terror. God forbid one does get through. What do you think the reaction of the country would be? Especially if it was perpetrated by, say, a small boat migrant.
Oh, I think it would be a real trigger point, clearly. That would be a total... Not a catastrophe, because that would be to imply that something it would be something you couldn't understand, but you would be able to understand it. That's the danger. If there was an attack by a Hamas group in this country that turned out to be someone from a small boat, I've got no doubt that the repercussions would be seismic.
But when London was under attack on 7/7, you know, the main reaction from Londoners was to sort of tut and have to walk home, and then the next day they went back to work.
That was then, and this
is now.
They went back to work.
I think, you know, we are stoic about this. London can take it, right?
That was 20 years ago. It's a completely different landscape now. Completely different. So much has happened in the last 20 years. Not much of it very good.
I'm going to just give this little caveat. I do not want this to happen, by the way, but I'm just trying to gain some insight as to what you think would happen if this occurred, Peter.
Nor me, of course. I would never condone violence or rioting or anything like that. But it's a very, very different landscape. It was a different landscape in 2017 when people's patience was pushed and you had the huge misfortune to witness at very close quarters the dreadful acts of terrorists with mass casualty events. If there is, and there will at some stage, tragically, unavoidably be, a mass casualty Islamist terror attack, my suggestion would be go home, lock the front door and don't go out for a bit.
Yeah, that's right.
OK.
That's what the Civil Contingencies Act tells you to do, actually.
Should we look at the Observer quickly? It kind of links to it. Britain's real immigration crisis and the solution. Tony Blair tonight celebrating with a bottle of port, probably a nice cigar somewhere. Digital ID. What? Rachel Sylvester's on Labour's push for digital ID. Is this going to solve all our problems?
Well, I mean, nothing's going to solve all our problems, but this will solve an awful lot of them, including illegal migrants, including people working in the economy that shouldn't be, and terror as well.
Okay.
And yes, you can get around it and have fake ID, but it's a really important step forward.
So how will digital ID and a digital system stop small boat arrivals?
Because we start to know who's coming in, who should be here, who shouldn't be here, who's legit.
But they'll still be coming.
But yeah, it doesn't stop the arrivals, though, Paul. That's what Ben is getting at.
I don't think any of the proponents of digital ID are saying it's going to stop small boats, but it will help the security services, it will help the police, and it's a good idea.
Will you give the police the powers to demand somebody shows their ID when they've committed no other crime?
I think that will come down to Parliament to decide that.
Well, would you be in favour of that or not?
Probably yes.
Yeah, you'd have to.
Really? So a police officer can stop anybody who's just going for a walk round the park, going down the pub, going to work. You're going to empower the police to stop everybody and say, show us your papers.
It's not show us your papers, is it? It's going to be a digital ID. It's not something from World War II.
It's exactly what it'll be, all right? Show us your ID card, then, if we're going to split hairs.
Well, it's a digital ID, and we all have digital IDs now. This is just something that
you are going to empower the police. police to stop anybody and everybody in the street to demand they show their ID.
That's what it takes to get people out of the black economy and to make sure we know who's here.
All right, well,
present, then why not?
I'm not going to bore you and the viewers again about another COVID rant in China and social credit scores, but, I mean, you know my thoughts on that. However, at one point I will put to you on digital ideas, why do you think small boat migrants, we don't know who they are anyway, are going to be telling the authorities here their real names and identities? They're going to say, OK, mate, what's your name? Oh, I'm Abdul from Iran, when actually he's from Afghanistan.
Because they don't
How are you going to get them on a digital ID system?
They don't have any papers when they arrive.
How's that going to work? You expect to be honest?
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Show me your ID, please.
Yeah,
I demand you show me your ID. Or else, or you'll be Nick Sunshine.
It just won't work. And let's be honest with ourselves. In my opinion, digital ID isn't about stopping migration. It's about getting everybody on a centralised system where we can dictate your behaviour and probably go down the route of China, where you've got social credit scores, and if you diss the government, or you don't pay a parking fine, or you don't get your vaccine, or you've eaten too much meat that month, you won't be allowed to travel. You won't be allowed to go to the next town. You won't be allowed to leave the country. So, yeah, just putting it out there. Let's look at the sun. Let's light... I was going to say, you maybe heard, let's lighten things up a little bit, or maybe not. Strictly Cocaine Probe, BBC Law's firm inquiry into 2 stars. Linda, the TV dance show is embroiled in a massive drugs scandal. 2 lawyers have been drafted in. Does this surprise you?
Well, obviously it doesn't. It's the BBC appears to be on a downward trajectory where this kind of scandal is involved. I mean, it may not be that it's drugs this time. Last week it was the inappropriate behaviour of Greg Wallace was being trawled over. I mean, there is so much going on now at the BBC that it's... I mean, we'd be stuck for something to say, wouldn't we, on a Saturday night? Frankly...
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
You'd have to pump me full of drugs to make me watch Strictly, let alone take part in
Although
it.
it does give a whole new meaning to the phrase line dancing.
Hey, well done.
Well done, Paul. All right, on that bombshell, I think it's a nice little segue into your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for a year and get a bonus £5,000 in the bank as well. The latest Great British giveaway is underway. And guess what? If you haven't got a mortgage or rent to pay, you can still enter and win £15,000 in cash. Here's all the details you need to win.
This is your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for an entire year in the latest Great British giveaway. That's right, we'll give you a cash lump sum that will cover 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, up to an incredible £20,000. Plus, we'll add £5,000 on top of that for you to treat yourself. And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you, we'll give you £15,000 in cash instead. You have to hurry though, as lines will close on the 29th of August. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Very good luck to you. Quick shout out to a very special viewer, Mavis from the Black Country. Hello, hope you're doing well. Thank you for your loyalty and a very good evening to you. Thank you for watching. Right, coming up next, former senior correspondent at the Sunday Times and former political advisor Andrew Gilligan joins me next, and I'm going to talk to him about, well, myriad of stories, but particularly let's renew the debate about these Farage health rumours. Where did it come from? Why has he been forced to come out and say, I'm not ill, I'm perfectly fine, despite the fags and the booze, I'm doing all right. Back in just a tick.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel. What I want to talk about now, though, is a Christian street preacher who was shut down by London's Transport Police outside King's Cross Station. Now, she has exclusively spoken to GB News, claiming that Christians are being heavily persecuted in this country and that police are not doing this to other religious speakers. Shocking, indeed, if true. Well, are we living in this two-tier approach by the authorities that we hear so much about? I'm delighted to say I am joined now in the studio by that street preacher herself, Monique Bailey.
It is true that the police did tell us that you need a permit, so that is truth, but it's the way it was handled. She was very... It was just astonishing. I just couldn't believe how a police person could come against us like that. Like, we were abiding by the rules. And by the way, I didn't actually put the full clip on just to, in a way, save her, because it actually got worse.
OK.
Yeah.
Monique, can I just quickly ask, if you take a step back and look at Britain, you know, as a Christian, you see the demonstrations that we've had since October 7th, some would say pro-Hamas, anti-Israel demonstrations, pretty overt displays of anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
We've had the Lucy Connolly case. We've had, I would argue, clear evidence of a two-tier approach within our judicial legal system. Do you think that we are actually now entering a society where some groups, some religions are treated much more harshly than others? Do you think, for example, if you had been a Muslim preacher in King's Cross Station, the reaction would have been the same?
Yeah, of course, every religion gets something thrown at them, but I do think, of course, Christianity is the most persecuted, and I do think we will see it more.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Yes, we did it.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. We couldn't have done it without you.
Absolutely not. It is down to each and every single one of you who chooses to watch us, to listen to us, and to be a part of what we're trying to do. Thank you.
This is just the beginning. Britain's #1 news channel.
Hello, welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. I'm joined by former senior correspondent at the Sunday Times and former political advisor, Andrew Gilligan. Andrew, good evening. Nice to see you. Lots to get stuck into. Let's look at the Mail on Sunday, shall we? Carry on, Doctor is the headline. 2/3, Andrew, defy strike call in a huge blow to militant unions' bid to wreak hospital havoc. Your thoughts?
I'm interested by this. I mean, we've seen the government making a big attack on the BMA, the striking union, the junior doctors union, and this suggests it's having an effect. As you know, their vote was quite decisive to have a strike, but only just over half of them voted, which did suggest that there was, severe doubts about it this time, because they got 22% pay rise last year over 2 years, having also had a above inflation a pay rise the year before. I think some people, even inside the profession, are thinking these guys are being greedy. They've bitten off more than they can chew. And if this is correct, if these figures in the Mail on Sunday are correct, seems to prove that.
Is this a win for Keir Starmer and Wes Streeting? Because, was it a couple of weeks ago when the strike action reared its head again, Keir Starmer wrote a column piece, maybe it was in the Times actually, I can't remember, basically saying, look, a direct message to doctors saying, if you strike, you are playing into the hands of those who want to drastically reform the NHS, basically privatise it. And he made a direct call to them to say, please come to work today. And in the Mail on Sunday tomorrow, Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, is heaping praise on the strike refusing, saying, due to the dedication of NHS staff and a different operational approach from previous strikes, we've managed to basically, quell the tide. Is this a win for Starmer and Streeting?
It's too early to say that, but it could be. And I think they're right to be extremely worried about the potential impact on waiting lists of a prolonged strike, because when there were strikes under the Tory government, it had a big impact on waiting lists, a big impact on the number of routine procedures that had to be cancelled because the people who were meant to be doing them had to cover for the striking junior doctors. They seem to be managing things a bit better, frankly, than we did at the moment, in the sense that they're not having to cancel so many operations. And of course, the fate of the NHS, the service quality of the NHS is going to be one of the crucial issues going into the election. And I don't think they're wrong to believe that if the NHS doesn't get better, people are going to start losing faith in it. People are going to start being more open to alternatives, like a kind of more insurance-based system. So the stakes are pretty high at the moment. I think if this is correct, and of course it might just be the government trying to spin some figures in their favour, and obviously it's only the first lot of strikes, but nonetheless, if it's correct, it feels like the government are making some progress on this.
Yeah, unions on the ropes, perhaps. Paul Richards is here. He wants to have a quick word with you, Andrew, if you don't mind.
Hi Andrew, I went to see a play this afternoon called Nye, all about the founding of the NHS by Nye and Bevan, and there's a bit in the play where the politician in 1946 faces down the militant doctors in the BMA, and the audience erupted in cheers and applause at that moment in the script. And I think that's a sort of illustration, really, that the government now, today, has got public opinion on its side. So my question is, do you think, A, that's true, the public are with Wes Streeting, and B, do you think that is going to be a decisive factor in the settling of this dispute?
So the BMA, of course, in 1946 was against the creation of the National Health Service because they thought it would reduce their members' incomes. They didn't want to, they were doing quite well, actually, out of the private healthcare system at the time. The relationships between them and Bevan, the health secretary at the time, were absolutely poisonous. But I'm not sure that the reaction of a National Theatre audience is very representative. I've always seen
it's a snapshot, isn't it? Let's face it, it's not much of a focus group. But I think the public are sick and tired of strikes in the health service.
Class liberalism, the National Theatre. I've always felt it was that if you boiled the Guardian down into the absolute essence, you'd end up with a National Theatre audience. But actually, that in itself is significant potentially. If those kind of people are prepared to cheer an attack on the BMA, although I dare say they were cheering an attack on the BMA for opposing the creation of the NHS in that play. I haven't seen it myself, but that's probably the context, right?
It's worth a look. But I think Wes Streeting's got this one right, don't you think?
Look, I think it's a bit early to say, and as I say, I'm a little bit wary of government spin. These figures have clearly come from the government. They've come packaged up with a big piece from Streeting in the same paper saying the BMA is losing. But nonetheless, if this is correct, like I said, I think the government's getting the better of this at the moment.
Andrew, before we move on to a story in The Telegraph about Robert Genrich in the Official Secrets Act and boat terrorists, can I ask you, please, about a story in the Sunday Times tomorrow? Stephen Swinford, an interview with Nigel Farage, who's been forced to come out and say, I'm not ill, I'm fine, I'm in pretty good nick, actually, because there's been rumours swirling around Westminster, some suggesting dirty tricks from the opposition, that he's poorly. Have you heard any such thing around Westminster?
Yeah, I've heard it. I mean, I remember interviewing him in 2016, and he said he'd basically given up booze. He's actually back on that now. He's but not in any kind of massive way. And look, the thing about reform, it's a one-man band. Farage is, if you like, the party's single point of failure. If he goes down, the whole party goes down. You can see that from what happened at the last election, when Richard Tice was in charge and doing and leading, it wasn't really making much headway. I think they only won a couple of seats, literally a couple of seats in the council elections a couple of months before the election. Suddenly along comes Farage, it's transformed. So it's very much in the other party's interest to talk up any health problems he may have, and it's very much in his interest to come out and deny them. Yeah. But that's always been the problem with reform. It's a one-man band, and so far there's absolutely nobody to replace it. I thought the most interesting quote in that interview that he did, saying it's all nonsense, was that this is his last chance. I'm just trying to find it. What did he say? He said, this is it. It's the last shot for me. That's his, so that sounds like I'm only going to fight one more election, if that's true. And I don't know. I mean, maybe he is getting a bit tired. He's only 61. I mean, it's not that, he's not that old.
No, but he does work like a dog, I'll tell you that. Linda Jubilee's got a question.
So that's really interesting, Andrew, because I noticed that as well. That is very unusual for a politician to actually verbalise that thought about it being a last chance. It's highly, highly unusual that you would say that going towards a general election, even if it's 4 years away. But also, I'm very interested in what you say about the single point of entry, because what can Reform do to build some kind of succession plan? You'd see it in other political parties, you'd see it in the corporate world, but it's essential, really, that Nigel Farage does it now. But it's terribly difficult because no one else has the kind of charisma he's got.
That's right. And I think, look, Farage has always found it very difficult to work with other people. He's always fallen out with anyone who seeks to challenge him for the limelight at any point in every one of the many parties he's had. And the whole story of Reform, UKIP, the Brexit Party, all the others is, some up-and-coming person challenges Farage for the spotlight, gets offed. And we saw that with Rupert Lowe, of course, in Reform most recently. Arguably, perhaps Zia Youssef, although he's back in the tent in a smaller role. And I think that's going to be a huge problem for them. They've got to present themselves as an alternative government, and to run a government, you need more than one person.
Yeah.
I suppose I'd also say I've always had my doubts, actually, as how much Farage really wants it. Obviously, I think he probably wants it more now because he can really see it. He can see there's a real possibility he could be in number 10 in 4 years' time. But when I was doing the interview with him, I remember asking him, this is 2016, he was just about to win massively in the European elections. He obviously overwhelmingly won those elections. Sorry, 2019, we're talking about the last European elections. That's when I did the interview. And I asked him, well, what happens after the elections? Are you going to carry on? And actually, sort of, he was pretty equivocal. He certainly wouldn't say he was going to carry on after the elections. And it sounded to me like he wanted to go back to his LBC show and his quite enjoyable life outside politics. He didn't have people coming up into the street, coming up and, jabbing their fingers at him in the street. He had quite a nice life. He was earning quite a lot of money. And I've always thought there's the air of slight ambivalence about whether he actually wants it. Now, maybe he wants it more now because he can see it's actually within his grasp. But I still think that I thought that interview was really interesting. The interview just gave times for that air of ambivalence.
I'd also argue, Andrew, maybe he wants it more now because he can see the state of the country, and maybe this is, as far as Reform are concerned, this is the last chance saloon. If something's not done at the next election, then we will forever be at the behest of the so-called uni party. Before I let you go, sorry, go on.
He's literally said that. But look, I mean, anyone with any intelligence would also know Farage is a smart guy. Yeah. Would also know that actually being Prime Minister of this country at this time with so much, so many problems, it is not going to be a fun job, and it's not going to be easy. Yeah.
Before I let you go, one very quick paragraph from that Sunday Times interview with Farage tomorrow. He says, Farage's carefully cultivated public image of the smoking, pint-swilling raconteur is rooted in reality. He still enjoys a drink and the occasional lunch that can drift on for hours into the afternoon, but he's changing with age. The long days, rising at 4:50 a.m, going to bed at 11 p.m, are exhausting, and the Reform UK leader says he has moderated his lifestyle to suit. He said, I don't think I've ever worked under more intensity than I have for the past year. It's an enormous task building a new political party and a movement. I'm trying to moderate with age. Andrew, thank you for your company tonight. Hopefully see you again next week. Really appreciate your expertise.
Cheers.
Thank you, mate. More front pages on the way, including this big one on the front of the Sunday Times. Gaza children to be flown in for NHS treatment. So Palestinian children are coming to the UK. Up to 300 will be evacuated from Palestine to the UK within weeks. Yes, we'll get stuck into that just next. And we have more, including the Genrich situation over small boats. He's been absolutely wrapped by the Home Office for suggesting ISIS terrorists were coming over on small boats. Back in just a tick on Ben Leo Tonight.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Whilst the UK gears up for Storm Floris, it turns increasingly hot in Portugal, although there'll be some heavy rain in Croatia and Italy, particularly The central part of Italy, thunderstorms expected here, thunderstorms moving through parts of Croatia and Bosnia, but for much of Iberia it's sunny spells and increased heat. Higher temperatures than average for much of Portugal, and that's expected to continue into the start of next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We've got more changeable weather on the way for Sunday, some rain for many of us, but also some sunshine following from the north later. But then for Monday, it's all attention out towards the west. Here comes Storm Floris moving across the Atlantic on Sunday afternoon, deepening as it becomes a very deep area of low pressure for the time of year and bringing some very strong winds to the north of the UK on Monday. But back to Saturday evening, we have got this area of cloud and rain pushing in across Northern Ireland and Scotland, slowly working its way southeastwards across the UK through the course of tonight. Some fairly low cloud developing, so some mist and hill fog as well, and quite humid conditions in the west, clearer and slightly cooler down across the southeast. It does mean, though, that if you are in the south and the east of the UK, we should get off to a fairly bright, if not sunny, start to the day on Sunday. So do make the most of that sunshine. It's not going to last too long. Further north and west, we run into that cloud and some outbreaks of rain. Some areas of low clouds, so misty conditions around the coast and certainly some hill fog around as well. Some heavier outbreaks of rain in places too, and quite a wet start to the day across more eastern parts of Scotland in particular. Out towards the northwest, though, of Scotland and Northern Ireland, already turning brighter here, and those brighter, sunnier conditions will work their way slowly southeastwards as we go through the course of the day. Even in the south, though, we probably won't see a huge amount of rain getting towards the south of England until very late on, and even then just the odd shower. Perhaps the odd heavier shower and even thunderstorm across the northeast of Scotland, but here there will be some sunshine, and it should feel pleasantly warm in that sunshine with temperatures into the low 20s for many of us. A very wet and windy picture, though, for Monday, especially across the northwest, so a weather warning already in place across Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England and the far north of Wales. Some damaging gusts of wind, so do stay tuned to the forecast. We could see some disruption. Even in the south, it will be fairly windy for the time of year. A changeable week of weather on the way, but generally settling down somewhat on Tuesday and Wednesday, and temperatures around average for the time of year.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. Now, the Metropolitan Police has outlined their policing plan for potential protests outside asylum hotels this weekend. The operation comes as the government approves a rather measly, it's been argued, 4.2% pay boost, when you consider what junior doctors are getting, for coppers in England and Wales. That's backed by £120 million of extra funding from the Home Office. I went down to one of the protests earlier today at the Barbican in sort of central North London. This woman here, I'm about to show you, is called Tony, and she told me why her community wanted their local hotel shut down.
Here today?
Because I live in the local community and I'm concerned over my children's safety. I'm concerned about my old age pensioners who can't come into the local square where we've always communed. This is our cafe.
So this is the square here? Just tell us, describe for viewers what's here, what's around here.
Fish and chip shop. They also, that's our George, and he opened a restaurant that's gone completely down the hill because obviously it was a thriving hotel at one stage. Now, as we know, it's just besieged.
So that's a great point. So because there's no genuine guests there's no tourists staying here, the local businesses are losing out because people aren't eating, people aren't going to the restaurants.
In the parks anymore, but you can't. How can you play with your kids on a paddling pool when you've got 4 or 5 men that you don't know glaring at you? They're disrespectful. They've got a different ideology.
Tony, I've been with the Antifa stand up to racism lot in the past couple of hours.
They're not local.
Well, no, they've been bussed in, and also they're fully masked. But they're calling you lot racist. They're calling you lot bigoted. What's your response?
We're a diverse community, so how can they call us racist? And I don't like the fact that these people are coming into our community, telling us what we've got to put up with, and it's our kids' children's safety that's paramount.
It's 20 to 11 now. I think Tony's probably about to get a knock at the door by somebody at the Home Office for speaking the truth there. I spoke to another man who had a few choice words for the Prime Minister.
Why is it Keir Starmer continues to basically close his ears to the working people of this country, who are telling them in no uncertain terms, we do not want these people, in and around our children. We know the crime statistics. We know what's happening in our country here. What is wrong with them? Why are these politicians deaf and not hearing?
All right, well, joining me now is human rights lawyer Dr. Shoaib Khan. Dr. Shoaib Khan, thank you for your company tonight. Nice to see you. What do you make of the concern and the worries and the anger displayed by protesters today down at various sites, including at the Barbican where I was in London?
Yeah, well, lots to say. I mean, but firstly, to be honest, considering the concerns they raise and the reasons they give, I'm not sure who chooses the venues and why all these protests are taking place outside hotels. Why not outside the Home Office, somewhere where the Home Secretary is, outside Downing Street, outside Parliament, somewhere, someone where a decision maker is. Because here all you're doing is intimidating the people inside hotels, creating uproar, creating unrest. I just don't see what the point of these is. Why are they outside the hotels? That's the first thing. But
hang on a second. Well, can I address that? So your question was, why are protesters outside hotels?
Yes.
Well, for the very reason that I just showed you and viewers on those clips, because they don't want them there. Their businesses are losing money. They're concerned about the safety of their children.
Why are they outside the hotel? Who's going to make a difference there?
Well, where do you expect them to protest? Down at the McDonald's in 10 miles away?
No, I just told you, outside 10 Downing Street, or outside Parliament, or outside the Home Office. Those are the people who make the decisions. It's not the asylum seekers deciding to be there. Then you go to protest, and they decide, OK, fine, we might as well go somewhere else. It's nothing to do with the asylum seekers where you're keeping them. So
Dr. Khan, it kind of is something to do with asylum seekers when, I was sent pictures today, I've not showed them, but pictures of migrants rolling cannabis joints in the square there where Tony was speaking. In other locations, such as the Bell Hotel in Epping, one migrant has been accused and charged of molesting a young girl. So, it kind of is something to do with a few of them.
No, or you think, OK, so these protesters, they're going to see this protest and decide to go somewhere else? I just don't see what the point is over there. So, anyway, that was a ancillary point. Just the location, I don't understand what the effect is outside the hotels. But secondly, in terms of, yes, what you're saying about the concerns, I'm not surprised, given the attitude of the media, of politicians, people who come up with this rhetoric, with this divisiveness, who don't tell people the truth, who don't encourage integration. Another thing, we keep people in hotels. Firstly, like I said, obviously, they don't choose to be there. It's the Home Office.
So it's our fault. It's the British public's fault.
Not the public's at all. That's what I said. I don't blame the public at all.
Well, you're citing lack of integration. So, are the British public not doing enough to make these people feel welcome?
No, the government isn't and the media isn't. Again, like I said, I'm not surprised the public reacts as it is when they are fed the news and the information that they are. And that's why I'm saying nothing to do with the public. Of course, they want people to be safe. If constantly we keep pointing fingers at certain communities saying, these are the people making you unsafe, of course people will rise up. So I'm not blaming the public at all. I'm saying it's the media and the politicians that do that. But secondly, it's nothing to do with I'm sure so many of we did see previously. We've seen mouldy food. We've seen the poor facilities. We've seen, millionaires becoming multi-millionaires and multi-billionaires through, the hotel owners. Why doesn't the government look into that? And that's the thing, because the government has no plan, no place to keep these people, and that's why they're forced there. And they're going to be there for a few months, a year, 2 years, and then when they move somewhere else and they granted status in the UK, then suddenly people will complain, well, we don't know where they've been, they're not integrated, they haven't learnt English. How are they supposed to learn English when it's all of them together in a room, in a hotel? So, of course, they don't want to be there. No one wants them to be there. That's how ghettos start. Of course, no one wants that.
OK, Dr. Shoaib Khan, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We did contact the Home Office this evening. They stated that due to safety and security concerns, they can't confirm whether migrants are being housed in hotels. They also said they were unable to comment on operational matters. And a spokesperson for Tower Hamlets Council said, we're aware of the government's decision to use the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf to provide temporary accommodation for asylum seekers. It's important the government ensures there's a full package of support for those staying at the hotel. We are working with the Home Office and partners to make sure that all necessary safety and safeguarding arrangements are in place. Coming up, it's time for Big Weekend Fails. Back in just a tick on Ben Leo Tonight.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's been an exceptional event, Dawn. Armed Forces Day, raising money for veterans and their families.
Johnny, well done.
Thank you so much. Very kind of you. It's been exceptional, really. I've got a lovely medal, which is another big win for the team. I just want to bring in Nick and Amanda. Amanda here is a veteran of the Australian Navy. She's married to Nick, who's a serving Royal Navy officer. How are you feeling, Amanda? Great success. Well done.
My legs are hurting, but I'm so happy that we've been here today. It's just been so much fun, it really has, and for such a great cause.
And this is a charity you both support very closely, Nick.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the armed forces protect the nation. SAPA protects the armed forces. We're really happy to be out today. It's been a super reception right the way along the route. Loads of lovely people out today, so it's been good fun. Sore legs.
And both of you met through the Navy, of course. It's an exciting armed forces love story. It must be wonderful for you to both give back to the armed forces community today.
Absolutely, and we will never stop giving back. You know, we're Matt Lowe's at heart. I'm a veteran. I work for an aerospace and defence company who are going to match our donations that we raise, and it's just really exciting. So we'll always keep giving back.
And Nick, for you, you're still serving, but you must have such a close connection with our veterans community as well. Many people you must have known on this walk here today, over 1,200.
Yes.
How does it feel still serving in the Royal Navy, seeing how many members of the armed forces continue to support veterans and their families?
I think you never leave the armed forces. You never leave it, and it's lovely to see that the relationships that you form in service continue after. And you know, we work very hard to stay connected to all of our old shipmates and people that we've worked with for many years and sort of sat alongside in some odd places around the world.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. Time now for Big Weekend Fails. This is the part of the show where the panel pick a moment from the week which they think was an absolutely epic fail, and we discuss it briefly. Linda, this is yours.
Not a fan of your mayor. Why not? I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London, but a nasty person. I think he's a friend of mine. Not sure. No, I think he's done a terrible job, but I would certainly visit London. Yeah.
It's just that Keir Starmer, he makes this very awkward defence of Sadiq Khan. I mean, it's so awkward that it doesn't imbue you with any confidence about his leadership qualities. And then clearly, President Trump just steamrollers right over the top as though he never said it at all. I mean, it's interesting that I had lunch with a very good friend and contact of mine who's a senior military strategist, and he said that really Keir Starmer is a chief of staff, but not a leader. Yeah. He could manage stuff quite intricately, but he's not got leadership qualities.
Yeah. And I'll say again, props to Bev Turner, who was in the Turnberry conference room, whatever it was there, with Prime Minister Starmer and Donald Trump. What a show of journalism. Isn't it refreshing? Right, let's look at who's next. Paul, this is yours. Remind us, what was that?
Well, this is the guy that was normally in charge of this whole ridiculous ad campaign for Jaguar, who has announced his, shall we say, retirement. I think he got booted out, frankly, for taking a established brand that had many, many strengths and just totally trashing it.
Is this the Jaguar CEO?
This is Jaguar, you know, a really respected brand, and just how not to do PR.
So it says Jaguar Land Rover CEO Adrian Mardell is stepping down as the boss of Britain's second biggest car maker after just 2 years at the helm. So you think it was directly related to this, this woke rebrand?
Don't you? I think
because Jaguar sales plummeted, but I mean, some people are arguing it's because of, I mean, tariffs, for example.
No, I think it was because of this idea that you can advertising a car without showing the car, and then taking the famous Jaguar logo and trashing it, and trying to sort of modernise it in a way that's out of tune with your base. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
I do love JLR cars. I mean, they're not very reliable anymore, but a spokesperson for JLR said Adrian Mardell has expressed his desire to retire from JLR after 3 years as CEO and 35 years with the company. His successor will be announced in due course. Let's hope his successor isn't as woke. Peter, this is yours. Talk us through this. We've got some images on screen now about to come up.
Yes, happily. This is Mohammed Fahir Amiz, who this week got convicted on 3 counts of assault, 2 on police officers, one of whom was a female who he broke the nose of, and yet that revolting creature actually tried to convince a court that he was acting in self-defence. Well, the jury saw through that and dutifully returned 3 guilty verdicts. I look forward to the day when I hope he is suitably sentenced.
Yes, when is sentencing?
Well, there are other legal matters that need to be attended to before that can happen.
So, yeah, he was, of course, convicted of assaulting 2 female police officers and a member of the public in the footage we all saw. So, yeah, there we go. Let's look forward to the sentencing, very briefly, Paul, your take on next week. What's in store for Sir Keir Starmer and the Labour government? It seems to have been a pretty rocky week.
Well, it's still recess, but I think they're sort of trying to get their acts together. They had a big reception at Downing Street for influencers. I don't know if you saw this, but we had all the folks
What kind of influencers?
Well, the people that have millions of followers on TikTok who advise on public, private finance and all these sorts of things. And so it seems they're trying to get their comms.
Were you there?
Was that paid for out of public money? Was it?
It was, yes.
Oh, well, how much did it cost?
Well, I've no idea. I wasn't there.
Well, perhaps you could find out for me, and we could let the great GB News audience know.
Why has it?
I think that's important.
Why has it taken the Labour Party so long to sort out its comms? Because they've been in office now.
Very briefly.
A year.
Well, good question, but they are getting their acts together.
OK.
And how much of our money are they spending?
And you were there, Paul?
No, well, that's not.
Right.
No, I'm not an influencer.
OK. Well, don't do yourself down, Paul. I'm sure people disagree. Right, thank you, panel. Don't forget you can stay with us all day, not just on TV, but on radio and on your smart speaker. To listen to us on your smart speaker, just say, play GB News on TuneIn. That's not the end of the show, because Ben Leo tonight, late edition, is coming up. And the very first story I want to get stuck into is this. Gaza children flown to the UK for treatment on the NHS. 300 will be evacuated from Gaza within weeks, and they're coming to the UK. What do you make of that? gbnews.com/your say. Linda, you are departing. Lewis Schaefer is coming to join the fun with Peter and Paul and me. He's in the gallery now. He's raring to go. See you in just a tick.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We've got more changeable weather on the way for Sunday. Some rain for many of us, but also some sunshine following from the north later. But then for Monday, it's all attention out towards the west. Here comes Storm Floris moving across the Atlantic on Sunday afternoon, deepening as it becomes a very deep area of low pressure for the time of year and bringing some very strong winds to the north of the UK on Monday. But back to Saturday evening, we have got this area of cloud and rain pushing in across Northern Ireland and Scotland, slowly working its way southeastwards across the UK through the course of tonight. Some fairly low cloud developing, so some mist and hill fog as well, and quite humid conditions in the west. Clearer and slightly cooler down across the southeast. It does mean, though, that if you are in the south and the east of the UK, we should get off to a fairly bright, if not sunny start day on Sunday. So do make the most of that sunshine. It's not going to last too long. Further north and west, we run into that cloud and some outbreaks of rain. Some areas of low clouds, so misty conditions around the coast and certainly some hill fog around as well. Some heavier outbreaks of rain in places too, and quite a wet start to the day across more eastern parts of Scotland in particular. Out towards the northwest, though, of Scotland and Northern Ireland, already turning brighter here, and those brighter, sunnier conditions will work their way slowly southeastwards as we go through the course of the day. Even in the south, though, we probably won't see a huge amount of rain getting towards the south of England until very late on, and even then just the odd shower. Perhaps the odd heavier shower and even thunderstorm across the northeast of Scotland, but here there will be some sunshine, and it should feel pleasantly warm in that sunshine with temperatures into the low 20s for many of us. A very wet and windy picture, though, for Monday, especially across the northwest. So a weather warning already in place across Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England and the far north of Wales. Some damaging gusts of wind, so do stay tuned to the forecast. We could see some disruption. Even in the south, it will be fairly windy for the time of year. A changeable week of weather on the way, but generally settling down somewhat on Tuesday and Wednesday, and temperatures around average for the time of year.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
This is your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for an entire year. We'll give you a cash lump sum that will cover 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, up to an incredible £20,000. Plus, we'll add £5,000 on top of that for you to treat yourself. You have to hurry, though, as lines will close on the 29th of August. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racist tonight on the
unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Hello, good evening. It's 11 p.m. I'm Ben Leo, and this is Ben Leo Tonight, late edition. And big breaking news tonight: the government's latest bid to crack down on small boat migrants. Get this: anyone who advertises channel crossings or fake passports on social media could face up to 5 years in prison in the UK under new plans. Of course, because we've got loads of free prison spaces, haven't we? Elsewhere, on the front page of the Sunday Times, Palestinian children from Gaza will be flown to the UK for NHS treatment. 300 should be coming in the coming weeks. Elsewhere, crime does pay, apparently, only it's you forking out for it. A surge in shoplifting in Britain is costing you over £100 a year as stores hike their prices to recoup their losses from thieves. Also tonight...
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Dear, oh dear. In tomorrow's Sun, a new bombshell piece of research warns how much Ed Miliband's mission for net zero, the deranged march to net zero, will cost British households each and every year. It's eye-watering. I'll reveal all in just a tick. Also, wildfires devastate Spain and Portugal. If you're watching on TV now, some really horrific pictures. Thousands of firefighters have been struggling to put out dozens of blazes in northern Portugal and central Spain. That's as thousands of families, of course, across the UK are jetting off for their summer holidays. We'll bring you all the latest updates on that developing situation in Europe. And... the BBC have launched a probe into Strictly Come Dancing cocaine use. Yes, The Sun have a rather astonishing front page tomorrow. The newspaper says 2 stars on Strictly have made allegations that drug use is well known on the show, and a top law firm has now been hired to investigate claims. The BBC has encouraged anyone to come forward if they know anything. Joining me tonight on our very, very sober panel, the former Labour Special Advisor Paul Richards, former Scotland Yard detective Peter Blexley, and the comedian and former headliner GBNews star Lewis Schaefer. And what do you reckon's going on here?
We ain't got no troubles, no reason to complain. 'Cause here in Great Old Britain, we just love it when it rains. Morning. We're cosy here at home, even though it's not our own. But wait a few more years and who can say? Everything is just fine. Everything is grand. Your life can get no better when you're living by the letter in this pleasant land.
Hello, welcome to Ben Leo Tonight, late edition. It's 11 o'clock. So many stories to get through with my top panel, including this one. The government has announced plans to get tough on people who advertise channel crossings or fake passports on social media. They could be jailed for 5 years as part of the new Border Security, Asylum and Immigration Bill. More than 25,000, of course, small boat migrants have arrived in the UK in 2025, which is a record for this stage of the year. Let's get the thoughts of my panel, the former Labour Special Advisor Paul Richards, former Scotland Yard detective Peter Blexley, and the comedian, former headliner, GBNews star Lewis Schaefer. Good evening, panel. Hello, Lewis. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.